Welcome everyone to another episode with Montana Outdoor Science School. Today is our first virtual discovery walk. This is something that we are partnering with GVLT to put on. Every year, GVLT, or the Gallatin Valley Land Trust, and MOSS get together and we do walks that people can come and attend. On these walks, we talk about various knowledge, we talk about various science and nature. There's always a lesson accompanied with these walks, but because of COVID-19, we can't do these in person, so we're bringing them to you virtually. Today's virtual discovery walk is hiking essentials. On this hike, I'm going to talk about everything you need to do beforehand, what you should bring with, and things to be aware of while you are on trail. The lesson today is compass basics. So if you have a compass, be sure to bring it on your own hike and find out how you can use it while you're out on trail. There's 3 things I need to do before I go for a hike. One of them is I need to choose a place where I'm going to go hike at. The second, I need to check the weather and see what it could be like while I'm out on my hike. And then I need to let someone know where I'm going and when I should be back by. The place I've chosen to go hike at is in the Bozeman area. It's a pretty easy one, Drinking Horse Mountain. Drinking Horse Mountain is a very popular trailhead around here. And because of COVID-19, I have chosen to go there at a time that I know there's not going to be very many people. You can do something similar with your own trails that you may go hike by either choosing a good time of the week or a good time of day where there may be less foot traffic, or even choosing a route that is not very heavily trafficked at all. Drinking Horse Trail is over here, and you can see that it's got lots of little switchbacks. It's not very long at all. According to the map, it should only be about 2 miles. So that gives me a good estimate of how long I may be out for. It shouldn't be more than a couple hours. Before I head out for my hike, I'm going to check the weather, and today's forecast calls for rain, which means I'm going to be bringing my rain jacket. Furthermore, when you go out for your hike, make sure you're checking weather for the specific location of the trail, not just in town. Weather in town is very different than weather in the mountains, and you want to be prepared for whatever that may be. Hey Evan, I'm gonna go hike Drinking Horse for a couple hours. I should be back around 10.
Okay, have fun, be safe.
Thanks. It's really important to make sure that when you apply your sunscreen, you do it correctly. Sunscreen needs to be applied at least 15 minutes before sun exposure, needs to be reapplied at least every 2 hours, and it also needs to be rubbed in. This is especially true for spray-on sunscreen. A lot of folks might think that you can spray it and go, but it does need to be rubbed in as well. Your first aid kit doesn't have to be as jam-packed as mine, but it should include a few basics. This might be something like Band-Aids, it might be latex gloves, it could be any medications that you may need or might want to take while on the trail. Most trailheads will have a bathroom at the beginning of them. Try to use it before you start your hike. If you don't find a bathroom at the beginning, or you're so far along down trail that you can't make it back to it, there is always the option of bringing a bathroom bag with you. Going number 1 is not so complicated in the woods, but number 2, you'll definitely want to bring toilet paper with you. We have ours wrapped in duct tape to help keep it from getting wet. A trowel or a little hand shovel in order to dig a hole for yourself. You'll want to make sure it's deep enough that afterward nothing's going to be disturbed and it's not going to get in anyone's way. But furthermore, a place for the toilet paper to go. We have here a little brown paper sack for toilet paper to be placed in, and then the Ziploc bag is for that to go in as well. And this just ensures that we're not leaving any trash out in nature. We want to try to keep the outdoors as clean as possible. Make sure when you arrive at a trailhead you check the board to see both the map but also any warnings regarding camping, fires, or potential wildlife that's been spotted. Oftentimes if bears or mountain lions have been spotted, there will be postings about this to let people know what's going on. At this trailhead, there's a reminder to stay 6 feet away from folks as you're going up trail. This is also a good time to remind yourself to stay to the right whenever possible as you are walking uphill and downhill. It's always fun spotting wildlife while you're hiking. Just make sure that you keep a safe distance between you and animals around you. I like to use the rule of thumb method, where if I can stick my arm out in front of me and take one eye and cover that animal with my one thumb, that means I'm a safe distance away from it. But if I take my thumb and I can't cover up that animal at a distance, and that means I need to take a few steps back. I like to apply this with small creatures, and of course as the animal gets larger, it's always best to keep even more room between you and them. Wildlife isn't the only thing that you should keep a distance from. You should also give space to people and their dogs that are on trail. Dogs may not be friendly to all strangers, and so it's really important to give them that space that they deserve. It's also important to know that if a dog does approach you, or if you want to approach a dog, be sure to talk to the owner first. They will let you know, they will give you clear boundaries if it's okay to touch their animal or not. Wildlife on trail. Make sure while you're hiking you're not taking any shortcuts off trail. There's a shortcut right behind me and it has caused erosion along this trail here. You can prevent erosion by making sure you stay on trail where the road has been established, and you can also ensure that you're taking the correct route by staying on the trail that you designated for yourself. Something fun to do while you're out hiking is to take an ID book with you of sorts. For me, I really like flowers, and so I've also brought my field guide to wildflowers in North America. I found a flower just now. I'm curious what kind of flower it is. I'm going to show y'all ways that you can use an ID book to help ID things that you could find on trail. So this is the little flower I found. It's a bright pink purple. It's got just one flower on it. I'm going to use my ID book to try to figure out what it is. In my ID book, in the very first pages, there are ways in which to think about looking at flowers, different ways to observe them. You can look at leaf patterns, how they are shaped at the base of the leaf. You can look at the whole leaf in general. You can also look at how the flower is clustered together, if it's just a single flower or if it comes in multiples. Furthermore, you can take a look at what type of flower it might be based on the shape of that flower. In this ID book, there are sections with flowers arranged and categorized by color. I know that this one, being a pink purple one, is going to be in the pink and purple section. Ooh, here we go. So I'm going to take a peek through here and try to find the right shape of flower and the right leaf pattern for this flower. It may take a few tries of looking through my book, but I bet I'll be able to ID it here shortly. So I'm thinking this is the flower that I found. Compare it to that little guy right there, and it's located on page 447. So it looks like on page 447 we've got two options it could be. There's the eastern shooting star, but if we look at the range for the eastern shooting star, it's everything in blue. We are clearly in Montana where all the yellow is, so that means this is probably a western shooting star. Looks like on this page it shows multiple flowers blooming from the same stem. That means I can only expect that this one is an early bloomer. We'll probably see more flowers as time goes on. Every ID book is a little bit different in how you can find plants or animals in that ID book. Make sure you get familiar with yours at home. It may look a little different than what mine is like. Furthermore, if you are coming into a vicinity of animals or plants, with those animals, make sure you're keeping a good distance between you and them. If they're larger, it's always best to keep even more distance. And if you're looking at plants, make sure you're not picking any of the plants. You don't want to disturb the life cycle of that plant. You don't want to accidentally kill it or erase any future generations that may come from that plant. Another western shooting star and some more western shooting stars. Be sure to check in with yourself and make sure that you're taking breaks as necessary. This is also a good opportunity to take a drink of water, to have a snack if you need. It's also an important time to remember that anything that you've packed in, you must pack out. Oftentimes there's no trash receptacles on trail, which means that any trash that you have made or brought with you needs to come home with you or be dropped off at the trash receptacle at the beginning of a trailhead. This is also a good opportunity to talk about leaving no trace while you're out in the woods. This means that you should be leaving things just as you found them, if not better. If you do find trash that you can take and throw away later, make sure that it's not something that's unhealthy or unsanitary. For example, you don't want to be picking up broken glass on trail that could hurt you if it potentially cuts you. You also don't want to necessarily be picking up something that maybe has been in somebody's mouth. Make sure that you're keeping yourself safe first, and make sure that you're taking care of the environment yourself. As a part of today's lesson with the GVLT walk, I'm going to show everybody how to use a compass. With a compass, there's a few important things you'll need to know about it first. One is, of course, the needle inside. The needle is the most important part. It shows you where north is pointing, and that is the red end that points north always. The second part you should know about is the housing that the needle sits in. This is this part of the compass here, and notice I'm swiveling it. It's supposed to do that. That's so that you can take a bearing and point yourself in the direction you want to face. There's also the base plate, which is the whole thing that this is glued onto. I've placed my compass in my hand as flat as I can so that the needle is able to float inside its housing. I've also kept my compass as close to myself as I can as well in order to get a better reading on it. I've spun my housing so that north, that little end there, is aligned with that big red arrow on the base plate. This shows that I want to find north, but I haven't found it just yet. What I need to do now is I need to spin my body until the red part of the needle is inside that red arrow in the housing right there. So watch with me, folks. As I turn my body this way, the needle stays in place, but the compass moves. This is why it's really important to keep your base plate nice and flat. And now that base plate is pointing me in the northerly direction that I might want to go. If I wanted to find a different coordinate, for example, if I wanted to find east, here's what I would do. I would spin my housing until the E for east is lined up with that base plate arrow again. Notice that there's a nice little white line inside that kind of helps that E to align perfectly. Notice that E for east is also directly between 80 and 100. 90 degrees is the degrees for east. If you ever use coordinates or see GPS units, this is what those numbers mean. Now that I've got east aligned with the base plate here, I'm going to turn my body once again until the red part of the needle, that's the north end, is aligned inside this red arrow in the housing. So, turning my body till it's there. Now I'm not facing north anymore, I'm facing east instead. The north end of the needle is still facing north, but I for myself have found east. We could do the same thing with west and south, and we would end up finding what is called the cardinal points of a compass. These points are the four basic directions of a compass: north, east, south, and west. If I'm facing east, that means I'm facing the direction that the sun rises every morning. If I were to do just the opposite, face west, I would spin my housing until I could find the W for west, place it so that it is aligned with that base plate arrow. And now I'm going to spin my body once again till the north end of the needle is inside that red arrow in the housing. And now I am facing west. Out west is where Bozeman is from here. Sometimes there's a misconception about compasses. Sometimes people think that just because they have a compass, that means they can't get lost. And this isn't always the case. A compass is helpful for knowing which direction to go according to various landmarks or various starting points. As you travel, your direction you may need to travel is also going to change with that. For example, if I wanted to head to the M from where I'm standing right now at this bench, I could head north, and that would get me roughly to the M and the start of that trailhead. But if I were to travel north from any other points in town or in the area, that might not necessarily get me to the M. The direction I would have to travel from those points would be different. Having a compass is fun. It's also easy to use, but it's not always the best guarantee to know where you're going. The best way to know where you're going is to always have a map of where you are heading to and to understand the trail that you are going to be taking. Make sure you're on the lookout for signs of life or any signs of animals. This could be something as easy as tracks on the trail, could be scat, it might be fur from a molting animal, or feathers. It could also be nests or burrows. These are all good things to keep an eye out for. And even if you don't see the animal itself, it's still pretty neat to find something that they have left behind. Snail shell. That looks like animal fur, I think. Thanks for tuning in to GVLT and MOSS for this virtual discovery walk. If you liked our video, please be sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to tune in the coming weeks for more videos about discovery walks. Thanks, everybody.